Good morning, Sport Karate. Once again, this is Jackson Rudolph with a special live episode of the Jackson Rudolph podcast. This is the last of our three-part series live from the Battle of Atlanta, brought to you by Sport Karate Zone and Century Martial Arts, as well as the amazing production team that we have here in Atlanta this weekend. And I am so excited to have a full lineup of guests for our final show here today. And leading into the night show later, we're also going to have Countdown to the Battle Zone featuring myself, Reed Presley, Mallory Woods, Juliana Ramos. We're going to have a ton of fun previewing the show. But in this episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking to a lot of the athletes that you're going to be seeing in the finals this evening. And by the way, they've got more eliminations to fight their way through today, and we're going to get some unique insights to what these athletes are thinking as they're approaching the prestigious Battle Zone finals. And so our first guests today are a couple of lady warriors from Team Paul Mitchell. We have, of course, my lovely wife, Miss Gabrielle Rudolph, and then Haley Glass joining us as well. So if you guys could start with just a one-liner, if the audience has been living under a rock and have not seen you guys yet, go ahead and tell us who you are, what you do, and how the weekend's been going so far.
Okay, do you want to go first? Let me go first?
No, you can go first.
Okay. Hi guys, my name is Gabrielle Rudolph. I am Jackson Rudolph's wife, our awesome host. I've been doing martial arts since I was 2 years old. Both my parents own martial arts schools. My dad owns a Taekwondo dojo in New Jersey, and my mom owns a WTF style Taekwondo school in Connecticut with my stepdad, Steve Doyen. And through my journey as a martial artist, I've played around with CMX forms, but now I'm primarily a Japanese martial artist. I started training Japanese karate when I was 16, and it's just taken my life over ever since. I love every second of training, and I love doing what I do here at Sport Karate tournaments. This past weekend, I've already competed in the traditional challenge division, which is a primarily Japanese division, and we compete with forms that are qualified in the WKF circuit. And yesterday I competed with Akata Kishimoto Kusanku. I was able to win that division, which starting the weekend off on a good note. And then me and my teammate Samuel Diaz were able to win the traditional forms sync division. So we're super excited. It's going to be our first time competing with sync at the Battle of Atlanta. It is a pretty new division for us. We just unveiled it for the first time at Compete Internationals, and we've just been having fun with it ever since.
Thanks for the spoilers. I was gonna talk about the divisions that you won.
Oh,
you
sorry
went
guys.
ahead and threw it out there.
I just went ahead
I
and
appreciate
was excited about it.
And then we'll go to Haley. And yes, Haley, you can go ahead and share all your wins from yesterday. I know you collected a few of them.
Yes, so my name is Haley Glass. I have been doing martial arts since I was 5 years old. I'm now 21, and unlike Miss Gabrielle, it's not in the family line. I was the first one in my family to do martial arts, and now my little sister is out there kicking butt too. But I specialize in more CMX divisions, so I got the CMX weapons and forms, and then also traditional weapons. I've been doing all three since I was probably about 9 years old, and I've loved it. It's gotten me so many opportunities. I've done America's Got Talent. I've been able to film some movies and TV shows, have opportunities to work on cruise ships, so it's really taken me very far. And this weekend, Battle of Atlanta is definitely one of my favorite tournaments. It always has been. I came out with 5 firsts yesterday and then 1 runoff win. So I won almost all of my divisions. And then I'll be on stage tonight for CMX forms and weapons, and then hopefully traditional weapons as well.
And one thing, and congratulations to both of you, of course. I get so used to saying that sometimes it's easy to forget. But I think one thing that is important for the audience to understand is that as you work through all of these various divisions in sport karate, as you win each division, you're trying to eliminate your competition, right? Every division you win is essentially a ticket to the Grand Championship round, and so the more divisions you're winning, the more you're limiting how much competition you might have in the finals. So tell us a little bit. You girls are both very accustomed to getting wins early on in the tournament and then trying to continue to shut people out through the rest of the event, which in a subjective sport can be difficult, right? Mm-hmm. Because if judges have been throwing nines your way all weekend long, it's human nature for those judges to start to think, well, should I give somebody else a chance in this division, right? Not how it should be, but that's how it is. It's human nature, right? So as the athlete, as the competitor, what is your mindset as you're trying to, you've got that first win and you're trying to go on a win streak and try to shut out as many people as possible? How focused are you on that? Or is it after you got that first win, the pressure's off and you know that you're going to the Grands, and if you don't beat them in the division, well, you'll just try to beat them in the Grands, right? Just take us through what that mindset is like for each of you, because I know it's a little different for everybody.
Yeah, I feel like there is a little bit of relief after that first division's kind of out of the way. But then, Saturday is a brand new day. I've got my Korean Forms division, my Japanese Forms division, and I definitely am as eager as I was the first day to go out on top with those next two divisions. So for those of you that don't understand the difference between Japanese and Korean Forms typically have the higher kicks, where Japanese Forms highlights the power. Everything's a little bit shorter and snappier with those kicks. So it's definitely a relief when I'm able to win all three of my divisions. On stage, the only other divisions that I don't compete in that are traditional forms are Kempo and Wushu. So typically, if the whole weekend goes my way, it would be me, a Kempo practitioner, and a Wushu Forms practitioner. But fingers crossed, hopefully that today goes well for those next two divisions.
It's a great breakdown. Thank you. And then, Haley, what's it like for you on the CMX side and traditional weapons? But in traditional weapons, you don't really have the chance to shut anybody out because you're doing bladed, and then whoever does non-bladed, which is typically going to be a bow form, whoever does non-bladed is going to be against you, right? But on the CMX side, there's a whole lot of divisions to be thinking about trying to shut people out in, right?
Yeah. So I do 6 CMX divisions, so pretty much all that I can. And so shutting people out, like I can never fully shut everybody out because I don't compete in Chinese weapons and forms. And that's like the one extra that I kind of will compete against every time. But the strategy going into it is definitely to eliminate the need for runoffs. So if I can win all of my CMX divisions, which I did yesterday for forms, then I don't have to run that extra form or go through that like second round before going to the finals. I go straight there, and that makes everything a lot easier, a lot less stressful, because typically the way our runoffs work is if there's more than 2 or 3 competitors, we will take it from maybe 4 or 5 down to that 2 or 3. So if I win all of my divisions and there's only 2 competitors to begin with, I don't have to worry about it. And that just kind of saves my energy, saves my body, and just helps me have a little bit more peace of mind going into it. Yeah. It helps me feel better also going into the night show, knowing exactly who I'm going to compete against, and try to eliminate my toughest comp during the daytime divisions rather than having to go head-to-head in the finals.
For sure. And I think that those answers from both of you give us a great overview of the fact that there's more strategy to being a forms and weapons competitor than just going out there and doing your best form. And I think the best forms and weapons competitors have identified that, right? The tournament weekend is something you're trying to manage that overall grand championship from the first division that you're in. You've got to get your ticket into it, and then you do have some control over who's in that grand championship against you, and then you finish the job in the grand championship, which, if you did your job like Haley was saying, is maybe just you and somebody else. And if the weekend maybe didn't go your way, you still got to the grand championship, but now you're looking at a CMX, or Creative Musical Extreme, for those of you that haven't heard that abbreviation before. You're looking at a CMX final that has like 6 or 7 people in it, and all of a sudden you have some bad luck, you draw first. That becomes very much an uphill battle no matter who you are, again, because of the human nature of the judges, right? So I could nerd out about sport karate strategy all day long till I'm blue in the face, right? But now I want to shift to talking about some things off the mat, because both of you have some really exciting things happening off the mat. Haley, you went ahead and set us up already talking about the opportunity that you have with Royal Caribbean, as well as pursuing a stunt career. So take a moment, just kind of update us. I know you're going to be getting back on the cruise ship in the near future. So tell us how excited you are for that. If it's a new show, if people still want to get tickets, it's a good excuse to go on a cruise if you can go watch Haley, right? But anyway, so go ahead and give us some highlights about that. But then also tell us a little bit about, once you get back off the boat, your focus on the stunt career and how things are going in that realm.
Yeah, so I just graduated from the University of Florida, so that was super exciting. Go Gators. But here in about a month or so, right after our next event, the U.S. Open, I will be going on another 3-month contract with Royal Caribbean's Wonder of the Seas in an all-female cast show called Intense. It's an aqua show, which is kind of crazy. You think martial arts and water, but we make it happen. It's a great show. It's about an hour long. We perform 7 times a week. This itinerary coming up, we'll be going to Mexico, Honduras, the Bahamas, St. Martin, St. Thomas, St. Kitts, all those Caribbean islands. So I'm really excited. Yeah.
So fun.
It is my second contract, so I'm a little bit more excited, less nervous coming into it. I didn't know what to expect the first time about a little over a year ago, but now this time I know exactly kind of what to expect, how things are going to go. And I got a ton of my family coming on. Some of my students are even coming to see me, so it's going to be a good time. I'm going to have a lot of like my best friends and family come to see me perform. It's going to be the same exact show, so I'll go back and be doing the same things. Maybe a little upgrade here and there, but it'll be a great time. And then after those 3 months are up, I get off the ship, I think October 13th. So then after that, it's planning to move out to Atlanta to pursue a stunt career. I've been coming out here a lot, trying to network, trying to just get in as much training as I can, and then hopefully make the big jump in November or December of this year.
That's awesome. And we're all super proud of those accomplishments. One of the biggest, of course, being graduating from University of Florida. That's awesome. And then, of course, the Royal Caribbean, and then going into the stunt career. It's all amazing. And I think it would be a mistake if we did this show and I didn't ask you, as somebody that gets on the cruise and performs, Gabrielle and I have cruised for honeymoons and stuff like that, our honeymoons, our honeymoon as well as anniversaries and stuff. But like as a performer on a cruise ship, if you had to say like, what is the number one thing that like surprised you or that the average person wouldn't expect about that role as one of the performers?
I think I didn't even expect this coming into it, but the risk level that we perform in, we do shows in some pretty crazy conditions, and that's one thing that I don't think people understand. It's how much even a slight rock in the boat can change our whole show, can really cause us to fall, to mess up. There's a lot of reblocks that we'll have to do when the ship is rocky, but we'll perform in some pretty crazy conditions. I remember one of our shows that we started in the rain. It was raining the entire time, almost thunderstorming. At that time it wasn't, and then midway through the show they saw lightning and we had to stop the whole entire thing, but they were willing to go through with it. I also can't see half the time. It's chlorine in my eyes.
Oh geez.
So there has been times where I almost flipped on top of a dancer. I've slipped on lights. It's pretty dangerous, but it's really fun. But I don't think people understand that it's not just performing regular. So many modifications have to be made, and I'm also performing in about 6 inches of water. So having to really...
That's deeper than I thought it was.
Yeah.
That's covering your whole foot.
No, it definitely is. And so having to learn how to do what I do with that kind of holding me back is definitely tough.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Really great insights into something that the vast majority of us will never have an opportunity to understand what that's like. And definitely a ton of respect for taking on that level of risk to put on a good show. And then as we bounce it to Gabrielle and we start to kind of close out the show here, obviously if people tune into the Battle Zone finals tonight, they will see you not only competing on stage in the Forms finals, but also singing the national anthem. So that's one of your not so hidden talents. But you're also pursuing other things now, working on an acting career, a budding social media influencer as your TikTok continues to flourish. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about what that's been like, pursuing the acting as well as this random kind of social media blow up.
Yeah, it's been crazy. With my social media, it just started as me just wanting to post some cool karate content and see where that leads to. Back in 2022, I posted just a random video of me doing some Taekwondo kicks, and this guy from WWE Recruitment reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want to try out for the WWE? And I was like, why not? So they sent me out to Nashville, and I made it through, and they were going to offer me a contract. But me and Jackson had just gotten married, and I would have to move to Orlando full time. And I was 22. I wasn't in a place to still be long distance because me and Jackson were long distance our entire relationship. And I just wanted to settle down, and I was not ready to give up my martial arts career because I knew that if I were to sign that contract, I wouldn't be able to compete, and this is the thing that I love the most in life. But with that being said, I love being in front of people. I love putting on a show, and I've always had, just a passion for acting. So through that whole experience, I was able to get a manager for acting, and these past almost 2 years have been so much fun getting to audition for some crazy roles. I did a short film for an action film, which was really cool. I got to shoot some guns, and that was a new experience. And yeah, I'm getting some really fun auditions. A lot of Netflix stuff now, which is really cool. Just waiting for that one role to call my name. But yeah, it's been awesome. But as far as social media goes with TikTok, I just had another random kicking video that took off with almost 10 million views, and I'm seeing that follower count go up and up and up, which is awesome. But honestly, I'm just trying to bring a little bit more light to the martial arts community. You know, we're females in a male-dominated sport, and I think the more representation we can bring to sport karate, the better. So that's what I'm trying to do with it.
Love it. A beautiful message. And thank you both so much for taking the time to come on the show this morning. Tell us a little bit about what's been happening on the mat and your mindset moving into the competition today. Looking forward to the Battle Zone finals, as well as talk a little bit about off the mat and all the amazing things that both of you are doing. The whole community is super proud of everything that you guys are doing to help progress your own careers, but also to help sport karate grow by kind of getting your names out there as well. So thank you guys both so much for taking the time, and best of luck to you today.
Thank you.
And so now, ladies and gentlemen, we will pivot to our second segment. You guys go ahead and go. You're good. We have no commercial breaks today, so we're rolling right through, and we'll go ahead and get our next set of guests onto the set here. So following up these ladies, we have none other than Mason Stowell and Caio da Silva, two of the top traditional kata athletes in the game today that are going to be duking it out for spots on stage tonight. And these two competitors have some history against each other, going all the way back to their junior careers, duking it out not only in the traditional divisions, but also in the CMX divisions, and we're certainly going to get into that. And with perfect timing, now in the booth, we've got Mason Stowell and Caio da Silva. How's it going, fellas?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Want to thank you guys both for taking the time to come on the show, and we'll start with just a little one-liner from each of you about who you are, where you're from, and anything you want to have the audience know about you before we dive into it.
Yeah, I'll go first. I'm Caio da Silva. I'm 19 years old. I'm from Long Island, New York. I've been doing karate since I was 4 years old. I am a college student. I go to school in Northeastern in Boston. I just finished my first year studying computer engineering, and super excited to be on the show today. Thank you.
Awesome. Computer engineering. I didn't know that.
Yep.
That's cool. And Mason.
I didn't know that either. My name is Mason Stowell. I'm 21, from Littleton, Colorado. And I'm currently working under my family business, which is really cool, and building up my coaching business. I've been competing for, like 10 years now. This is like my 7th Battle of Atlanta in a row. So that's cool. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing, where I'm at, training, working, all that stuff.
Awesome. And, of course, love to have you guys on the show today. And one of the things that I wanted to give the audience some perspective on is you guys' different paths through traditional karate, right? Because as sport martial arts competitors, we all learn a little bit of a bunch of different styles. Even if you're a traditional karate specialist, you get a blend of different styles in your training. Mm-hmm. I think, Caio, you're more of a Shotokan guy at core, whereas Mason, you're more of a Goju-Ryu guy at core, right? So just tell us a little bit about your karate pedigree and kind of starting from just being a kid in a martial arts school somewhere and how you kind of grew into the traditional karate practitioner that you are today. We'll start with Caio and go to Mason.
Yeah, so my story is pretty interesting because I started karate when I was 4, as I said. I started at just a local school near where I lived, and I was on the verge of quitting karate, really close, because I liked playing soccer at the time, and I was probably about like 6 or 7 at the time. And then Sammy Smith, as you know, from T. Paul Mitchell, came to my school. I really loved her class, and I decided to stick with it. I was CMX focused for a very, very long time until I met Sensei Joey in 2017. And from there on, I found my other coach, Sandy Scordo from France, and just studying Shotokan for a long time. And I decided to fall in love with it and kind of moved away from the CMX stuff, but really focusing on trad, and that's taken me a lot of cool places. So, yeah, so that's basically how it really went down. So I definitely have been in a lot of different practices of karate, just messing around with what I like, and I definitely think I fell on the right one. And I think Mason can attest to this, how transitioning from CMX to trad is a really good thing because there's so much athleticism involved with CMX that translates so perfectly to trad. That is really useful for competition. So
Great perspective. Thank you. And Mason.
Yeah, I mean, I actually hated traditional karate when I started. All I wanted to do was spar and do flips. So for the longest time, that was kind of my focus. And then once I kind of took it out of the regional level and started going to national tournaments, that's when it was like, all right, I am doing better at the traditional stuff, so maybe I should put a little bit more emphasis. And at that point, I was still doing like the more Korean style, and that's where I got my first 2 black belts, was in Korean-based styles. So I didn't even touch Japanese karate until I was like, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years into training and competing. So and then I remember just being at a tournament. I was at Diamond Nationals one year, and I saw my coach Jarrett competing, and I was like, well, that's like the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. So I want to do that. And I think the kata he was doing was Suparempe. So that kata obviously just means a lot to me. That was the first kata I've ever seen, like as far as the Japanese kata goes. So I saw that, and I was like, wow, I want to try and work with him and switch my styles, which was really, really tough, going from like a Korean-based style to Japanese. And then I was doing really, really well with the CMX, and that was like my main thing for the longest time. And then I don't know. I don't know honestly what clicked. It just started like I started placing really, really well. I actually started, so funny story, Kyle. My first time competing was at I think Miami at the Pan American Open or Pan American Championship, and it was like I did Unsu, which is a Shotokan kata. And I did it like one time, and then I switched, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna attack the Goju. And so from that point on, I kind of just fell in love with it. I started with Ni Pai Po was like my first actual kata that I competed with for a long time, and then I started competing with Suparempe. And yeah, I don't know. I kept doing CMX and traditional for the longest time. COVID hit, and decided to focus on the traditional side, and that's kind of when I started competing in WKF stuff, and just kind of fell in love with it even more, and decided just to focus solely on that. So yeah.
And I think you guys' stories is exactly why I always tell people, if you're under the age of like 16 in sport karate, you should do everything, because you never know
100%.
what is going to be the thing that winds up making you a big deal in
Absolutely.
this sport,
Yeah.
right? And the other thing that I want to touch on from the monologues that you guys gave is the lineage that you're each a part of, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got the Joey Castro sport karate lineage for Kaio, and then the Jarrett Liker sport karate lineage for Mason, 2 of the biggest names in traditional forms of the last couple of decades, right?
Goats.
So it's awesome that you guys are kind of carrying forward that tradition. And while we're kind of taking a trip down memory lane, I want to take a trip down each of your personal lanes of memory, if you will, because you guys have been rivals for a long time, going back to, I remember watching some CMX runoffs where you guys win some battles with extreme forms, tricks going all over the mat, and then obviously that rivalry has now transformed into a really competitive rivalry in traditional forms, right? Kaio winning at Ocean States, Mason winning traditional challenge yesterday, and so you guys going back and forth and having these battles, as somebody, like, I'm getting on the edge of my seat talking about it, because just a few short years ago, it reminds me of battles that I would have with my contemporaries, Reed Presley, Cole Presley, Tyler Weaver. Like, there's nothing like getting out there against people who are also the best at what they do and testing your skills against each other. So take us all the way back to being kids and throwing these crazy tricks against one another. And does it feel any different now that you guys are adults, or is it kind of same old, same old?
You go ahead first if you want.
So every time I compete, from the beginning, you know, you gain more experience, right? So from the beginning, I would watch all my competitors warm up, and I would feel, oh, they look really good. These seeds of doubt are planted in my mind right from the start, and this happens to me every single tournament, no matter what. Even today, even last tournament, I'm always doubting myself every time when I'm stepping on that warm up tatami or ring. But through the years, you learn to deal with those thoughts and build positive ones that are going to override those negative thoughts. And then, so throughout the years, I've always had a problem with being nervous or, taking this too stressful. But yeah, you learn to deal with those emotions. So when people like Mason, very strong competitors show up, it really lights a fire under you, and you have to really fight yourself. It's a mental battle. You know, Mason's an extremely good competitor, but you have to realize that it's you versus you. When I'm on the tatami, I'm just focused on my competition, and everything is just going to unravel after that. So I'm focused on me, and I'm learning how to fight through those thoughts, and that's something I can carry on throughout the rest of my life no matter what I do. Is when I'm faced with a challenge and I'm doubting myself, I'm working on planting those seeds of positive thoughts that are going to grow larger than those doubts. So that's something that competition has taught me so much, and I'm very glad for Mason and other strong competitors in my division for pushing me. When I see he's at a competition, I'm like, okay, now let's roll. Like that, now we got to warm up. We got to get to that beast mode, Shotokan man mindset. And so our competitions, even through CMX and trad, have been pretty awesome. I mean, it's cool. We've been competing for a long time, and it's cool that we followed a similar path through the CMX and trad, and that we're both at a high level at these competitions. And there's people that look up to us, and I understand that. So it's good to set that example as well and show that there's healthy competition and rivalry that's going to push each other to different levels in the sport. So.
And I love how relatable that is for a lot of the young martial artists that may be tuning in right now, like admitting that there is a level of self-doubt and nervousness that sets in no matter what level you're at, right? And so
Absolutely.
I think that's a really beautiful perspective to share.
Yeah.
And then Mason, your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I mean, I think he said it beautifully. It's a lot of mental battles as well as physical. But I mean, obviously everybody just sees kind of like the physical, like the match itself. But like I remember times where like him and I are like a division apart. So it was like we would see each other in the division like every year, and then like the next year it would be off, right? But we'd still meet each other in runoffs, and so it was always like, you know, all right, we've got to warm up, get this CMX stuff rolling, right? We both hit our divisions, do that, and then we have to switch gis, right? And then you have to get ready and do the traditional. So it's like, it was always a mental battle, like trying to figure out strategy. There is a lot of strategy involved, you know, even with NASCA. I mean, we talk about the strategies involved with WKF and the different rounds and trying to figure out who your competition is in your matches. It's the same with NASCA, you know, even though it's only, you know, technically one round that you have to make it count. There's a lot of strategy that goes into it, and a lot of mental struggles that go into it as well, you know, because there are doubts, you know. You have like, okay, because we're two completely different styles, like how do I know for sure that this is going to be the right kata to match up against this kata, right? Because it's like we're both super high level competitors, and it's we want to do our absolute best, but you never know, right? Like it honestly comes down to what the judges prefer and how they like, you know, their katas. So it's like you also got to look at the referees and all of that. And I don't know, I think it's always, I mean, there's been several tournaments where we just like we'll go in and do like one kata, and then it's like the next one we'll do two completely different katas. So it's like we always switch it up, and there's a lot of mental challenges that go along with it as well as physical. So I mean, I think just growing up trying to figure out how to go against each other was always just kind of, and it's just like an ongoing thing. You know, it's never like, you know, you find the perfect kata, you know. It's always, you know, you got to look at the referees, you got to try and figure out, you know, what your opponents are doing, what the other competitors are doing. So I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, but I think just over the years we kind of just try and figure out kind of each other, and you know, obviously at the end of the day, once the competition's over, I mean, I've never had a competition, win or lose, that I feel bad about my performance. And I think really that's the biggest win that you can have as a competitor, is like, you know, you did the right matchup, right? Everything felt good, and at the end of the day, it just comes down to the judge's preference. And I think there's a lot of satisfaction mentally once you kind of go through all of that goes into the tournament, and you just feel good about your performance. And I think that's really kind of what both of us chase more than anything. You know, even in the WKF, it's like there's so much that can go into each competition, but just knowing that you go in and you did your best and you feel good about your performance, I mean, that's really what you strive for. You want to feel good. So yeah, it's been a long road for sure. Yeah. It's been a long road, and those are just kind of some of the things that I've gathered over the years. So,
Right.
yeah.
And I think at the heart of both of those perspectives is you're competing against the man in the mirror, right? It's always about trying
100%,
to continue to better yourself, become a better athlete. And then no matter what the judges' preferences are between the two of you on a given day, if you're proud of your performance, then that's really the thing that you take out of it.
Absolutely.
And Mason, you also talk about strategy, and this is what I want to close with. And of course, you guys are sitting next to each other, so we can keep some things close to the chest here. But for everybody watching from home, one of the big storylines here is with Mason winning traditional challenge yesterday, there's one more chance to get a ticket to that grand championship in the Japanese Okinawan division for the two of you, right? Mason, of course, trying to get another win to maybe make his time a little bit easier on stage, and Kaio, of course, trying to give us a really good show on stage and giving us another one of those head-to-head matchups. And so without revealing too much, I just want to give each of you an opportunity. Kaio, what's your mindset trying to come back and get that win and force that matchup on stage? And Mason, what's going on in your head trying to secure shutout's a strong word because of how good you both are, but statistically speaking, shutout, right?
Right.
Kaio.
So, because of how it went yesterday, I know I have to change something, whether it's a change of kata or a change of mindset in the same kata. Something needs to change. You know, if it's not working, you got to pivot, adapt. That's what we do as high-level athletes. So right now I'm just thinking I'm going to give 100% all my energy into this next kata, and whatever I decide to do, I'm putting everything. Every kata is a fight. We're emulating a fight, and I'm going to treat it as such. So I'm going to put in everything as if I was fighting people. You know, kata is a demonstration of heart, and I think I have, through all years of training, I have a lot of heart, and I'm here to put on a show. I know people love to watch us. We bring high-level competition that I think is different from things you see normally at other competitions. Is people are on the edge of their seat when they watch us. So I think that's a cool feeling to see everyone look at everyone around us, and they're like, they're in for a show. So definitely a big display of heart tomorrow, and a few adaptations, and just me versus me, as you said before. So just want to put on a show and bring my best kata tomorrow. So.
Great mindset.
Not tomorrow, today. Sorry about that. I know I'm saying.
Good catch. And Mason, for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of different things strategy-wise that make the scenarios just a little bit different. Obviously, like, a win is a win, but like there's still more divisions, so it's like I definitely don't look at it as like I'm trying to like shut out. I think really the main goal is like you're just going into as like it's just a regular division, right? You want to win, you want to do well. I think that the circumstances are a little bit different with this one. The main difference with this division today versus yesterday is the time limit. Obviously, with traditional challenge, you have a 4-minute time limit. With regular traditional forms is 3. And so one thing that I noticed yesterday, I didn't notice this until after I stepped off the tatami. My time limit was right at 3 minutes and 50 seconds for my kata yesterday. So I was out there for a really, really long time. Obviously, I can't do that same thing today because I'll get disqualified. I'll be 50 seconds over the time limit. So whether it be how I perform the kata or just changing it up entirely and doing a different kata, that's something I still needed to try and figure out. Usually I make that decision kind of as I'm warming up and seeing how I feel and how everything's feeling. The last thing I want to do is make my kata look rushed. So that is something I do need to consider. I don't want to be over the time limit. I don't want it to be too close. So I have to just keep an eye on that. And then I think obviously just, get my warm up in, make sure that I'm feeling good, and then just look at it like a normal division. Yesterday, really, whatever happened yesterday doesn't matter and doesn't have any effect on this division right now today. So that's kind of the mindset going into it. Just go out there and do my thing, stay relaxed, have fun, obviously. And like you said, put on a show. We want to make it exciting, and we want the referees to see that, we're both trying our absolute best and putting all that we can into it. And we want kids to be able to see us, and no matter who wins, I want to inspire and make sure that these kids go out and have a positive experience just from watching the division overall. So yeah, I mean it's gonna be exciting, but strategy wise, we're just gonna have to wait and see and get our warm ups in and just see how we feel. So
two great mindsets from two excellent competitors. Wishing both of you best of luck today. I know that I'm going to be ringside enjoying that one because it's going to be another battle. So thank you both so much for taking the time to come on the show today and share your thoughts and perspectives. We also got to take some time in the regular Jax Rudolph podcast to get each of you on for a show because I know there's plenty of more stories to share. So a little teaser for those of you that are podcast fans. But
cool.
Again, thank you guys so much. You guys go ahead and step out of the booth. By the way, if you happen to see Morgan and Avery around, go ahead and tell them to come on over.
All right. Okay, sounds good.
All right. Thank you for having
We'll go
us.
scout for you.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's as I shift my attention back to our audience. You heard me just talking to Mason and Kaio. Our next guests will be Richard Avery Plowden and Morgan Plowden, that dynamic sibling duo of point fighters. Of course, Avery Plowden looking to make his way through the heavyweight division to the overall grand championship in the Battle Zone finals tonight. They will be our next guests on the show. And then after that segment, we're also going to be getting an appearance from Enrique Latona and Damian Rodriguez. And actually, it looks like Enrique and Damian are going to be stepping in first. Looks like we'll try to get the Plowdens here in a little bit. So Enrique and Damian stepping into the booth as we speak. How's it going, guys?
The man.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for the bit of flexibility as we get everything set here. I know we're maybe a little bit earlier than you guys expected to come on, but we'll make it work. So, of course, Enrique Latona, Damian Rodriguez of Team Diamond G3, and super excited to have you guys on the show. We'll start with just kind of a one-liner of saying who you guys are and whatever you want to share with our audience to kick things off.
Okay. No, thank you for telling me to be here. You really know that always when I was young, I always see you, always when you were coming to everywhere. So thank you for taking me here, and it's a pleasure for be here.
Thank you.
What's your name?
My name is Enrique Letona.
There you go.
I know everyone knows who I am, but
All right, so I'm Damian Rodriguez. I'm coach of Diamond G3. Same, I've seen Mr. Jackson grow up since he was a young competitor. I actually had a student that I had to coach against Mr. Jackson, and always seen him grow up, always a class act, and whole family as well, dad as well. Yep.
Thank you. Austin Newth, right?
Yep,
Is that-
Austin
yeah,
knew.
yeah, I remember Austin,
And I still
yeah.
talk to him. I still talk to his dad.
That's
Still have a
crazy.
good relationship with them. Yeah,
That's
they're great
awesome.
people. They send me their Christmas cards every year. We send them our Christmas cards every year. They're great people, man. So I try to keep good relationships with everybody. That's important.
That's awesome. And because you bring that up, I have to bring up my earliest memory of Damian Rodriguez was at the Pan American Internationals where he won the Fighting Grand Championship, was also on stage that night doing Saiyan Chin back in the old school NASCA traditional form style. And then the thing that sticks out in my mind is after winning that Fighting Grand, you doing a Jesus flip on stage. Do you remember this?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I used to do kind of crazy stuff like that when I was young. Now my crazy antics are in coaching.
That's awesome. And let's start with a little bit of a discussion about coaching. Obviously, Diamond G3 off to a great start this weekend. You guys made it, I think, in the final four of the team fights before coming up a little bit short in the semifinal.
Yep.
But then the big news was in open weight, Brian Rodriguez, and then, of course, our open weight winner, Enrique Latona, two Diamond G3 members in the finals of open weight in a 70 fighter open weight division, which is absolutely insane to have two teammates being the guys coming out on top. From the coach's chair, what was that like?
It was great, man. It was great, and the rest of the team had a great showing too. They ended up getting eliminated, but it's all about matchups. That's what it comes down to, and what the bracket comes out to, and styles of fights. And Enrique had to make an adjustment, especially with Avery. Avery's a great fighter, class act as well. Always a chess match with him. And he made an adjustment, and then Enrique made an adjustment, and then we just got lucky, and we made it up on top, So.
Awesome. And Enrique, I want to go through your perspective on that open weight division, because I think most would agree when we did the bracket show yesterday and broke down what all the matchups were going to be. You were in the more difficult half of the bracket. I mean, you fought Avery Plowden yourself, right? And that was a fantastic fight that went to overtime. So tell us a little bit about what that's like for you when you first see the bracket and you're looking at some of the names. How far ahead are you looking, or are you keeping yourself disciplined? And then being in those fights, tell us what that's like.
okay. First, always when I go to compete to everywhere, always I watch who is my division. This time, I say I don't see who is there. Just I'm going for the first place, because sometimes when you always are like, oh, he's in my bracket, always you lose, you know. So this time I say no, I will win. Wherever who is there, I will win this open weight, you know. So when I was there, my bracket was the most difficult, you know. There was the best fighters, you know. So when I was fighting, and after I was fighting with Plowden, okay, the last times he beat me, right? So this time I say no, I will beat him. He's my friend. He's really good fighter. When I was young, I see him always, and he is really good fighter. But I say I'm going for the first pitch, you know. So in the last seconds, we get the same score, and I get this hook kick, you know. It's my favorite technique, you know. But I'm really happy, you know, because always I work for this. I work always for the open weight. I think everyone wants the open weight, you know, because it's the most good category. So I'm really happy, and always I say to God, thank you, because he always are with me. Always when I go inside, you know, I pray always, because, you know, he is the first person that I say thank you, you know. So, and thank you for be there too, because it's really good that people can see you, you know, because when I do my hook kick, everyone was, whoa, that's good, Enrique, you know. So I like that, you know, because I know that everyone like me, you know. But thank you, yeah.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I love about watching your fights, is that you do always take that moment to pray publicly before the fight,
Always.
which I think is a beautiful display of your faith. And as a Christian myself, of course, it means a lot to me as well. And so I want to talk a little bit about that overtime strategy, because I think that was the thing that most people were talking about after the open weight eliminations yesterday, was that fight, because it seemed to be one of the best fights of the entire bracket, right? And so when you're going into overtime, right, you have those couple of few seconds to think about, you know, what adjustments you want to make. And I want to hear an answer from both of you on this, both in the coach's chair and as the fighter. Is there a specific technique that you want to try to set up? Are you letting the fight come to you? Or does it completely depend on how the fight has gone up until that point? Maybe Damian will start with, oh, wait, Enrique, it looked like you were ready to go. Enrique, you go for it, then we'll go to Damian.
Okay, so when I'm there, I always know what I have to do, always. This time I changed because I was doing my hands, but I was working like 5 points with hands, and in the last point I say no, I have to kick, because always when I'm trying to get my point, always I use my hands right now. But yesterday I say no, I will use my hook kick, because this one it's what I do always, you know. So I was trying 2 times, but it was clash. In the third time I say no, I will do my hook kick. And when he was trying to go with hands, I do my hook kick. So I was already know what I have to do, you know. Yes.
So I want to make sure that everybody understands this.
Yes.
On that last clash, in your head, you were like, hook kick's coming.
Yes.
You knew it.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Always.
I love
yeah.
that. I love that. And then, Damian, from the coach's chair, are you sitting there like, Enrique, hook kick, hook kick? What's going through your mind?
No, I actually wasn't. We had, you know, when you have elite level fighters, you can call out certain techniques, but they have to throw what they're comfortable with. And I know what his base is and what he likes to throw. But sometimes I just like to let him know, hey, this is what's open. And then, you know, obviously we were trying to go to the head, and then he made an adjustment, and then he covered that, and then we started going to the body, and then we threw the blitz. But then he made another adjustment, and then he has such a good wall, such good defense, that the only hole is either a hook or a round, you know. And he had already thrown like 3 or 4 back-to-back blitzes that clashed with Avery. Sometimes they went to Avery, sometimes they went to Enrique. And he wasn't expecting a blitz from Enrique, you know. So that was just the adjustments that great fighters need to make, you know.
Yeah.
Adjustments are so important, and the right adjustment, because if it's the wrong adjustment at the wrong time, you know, that can change the whole momentum of the fight, you know.
Right, absolutely. And a story within that open weight division that I certainly don't want to go untold is the other half of the bracket, right? And Brian and the run that he had, and a huge win over Tyson Ray, who Tyson was blitzing through that whole division leading up to that fight with Brian. So I want to give you an opportunity, Damian, to just give Brian his flowers as a guy who's competing in the 30-plus division now and going out there and making the open weight finals.
Yeah. Well, first off, Tyson is a beast. Like, I've seen that kid, he's a little chunky kid, going with his dad to different tournaments, and I've seen him grow, and that kid is so good. Like, he's so good, and he did such a great job in the division yesterday. Such a great fighter, such a class act. You know, it's coming from his dad, great person. And now moving on to Brian. Brian the same. Like a lot of these athletes, just class acts. I've known Brian for a long time. Actually, the first time that I met Brian, we fought at a tournament in Mexico, and we were both really young. And the relationship has just grown from there. He moved from Venezuela to Miami, and literally coming straight from the airport, came straight to the dojo. And he shows up at the door on a training day, and I'm like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm going to stay here. He's like, can I train? And I'm like, yeah, let's go. And we had to break down this whole style of fighting, because when he first came, he was just sort of lean back, wanted to kick only. Like, you guys still see that sometimes. He likes to lean back and kick. But before, that was the only thing he did, just lean back kick and a good spin kick, a good switch back. That's all he had. And we had to break it down completely. So it was like his fighting got worse first before it got better. And a lot of people were like, oh, Brian's not that good. Oh, Brian's not that good. And I was like, nah, I believe in him. He listens. He works hard. This guy's going to be good. This guy's going to be good. And he worked hard, and he just became one of the dominant, and I think one of the most dominant Venezuelans to come out of Venezuela fighter.
And there's a few of those.
Yeah, there's a few of those. I think Yoscar is a great a legend, literally a legend in the martial arts and in this game, you know, coming out of Venezuela. But obviously, I'm gonna put Brian right up there, and Brian's on the top of the list for me, and just a great person, you know, stuck with me the whole time. You know, he went Hayabusa, he went proper, and I helped that relationship happen with them. And then when he decided to come with us, he's like, Sensei, it's time to join you, and
Cool.
I'm grateful, and he's grateful as well, and we all have a good relationship. You know, I think that's what's most important. It's not just, you know, hey, you're on my team, I'll pay for you to go to the tournament. Like, it's more like we have a relationship. You know, I stayed at his house, not last night, but the night before, because our flight got canceled because of a lot of rain. So we had to I had to figure something out. I was like, what do we do? And I didn't want to drive, because if I drive, then I got to drive back 10 hours on Sunday, and it's Father's Day. I want to be home with my kids. You know, so I'm literally like, what are we going to do? We got to figure it out. I started looking at flights. I found a flight out of, the only airport that was flying out was Orlando. So I booked the flight Orlando Friday morning. Titus and I, Enrique and I, we got a train to Orlando, called Brian. I said, hey, you got a space on the couch? He's like, yeah. We slept on the couch, and we jumped on the same flight with him Friday morning, and we made it here. You know, we made it here at 12 on the dot.
That's
yesterday.
Awesome. And that's one of the things I think is so special about what you guys are building with G3 is that family aspect, those relationships that you talk about. Yep. I think that's so important to building a team with longevity, right? And I think that that's something that's so hard to find in this sport. Of course, there's a few, your Paul Mitchells, your straight ups, your AKAs, even if we step outside of the point fighting realm a little bit. There are teams that have done it, but there's a lot of teams that pop up, and they might be really, really good,
and then they're gone
for 4 or 5 years, right? And it seems like G3 is going to be one of those teams that's going to have the staying power, and of course with you at the helm, and others,
and Sam.
Absolutely.
I mean, we got a good thing going. We got good relationships. All the Canadians, they're in Budapest right now, so they're at the Hungarian World Cup. Dwayne is there, so we definitely have a good, and we all. You know, there is really no, like, I'm here, and yeah, I guess I'm at the helm today, but at times it could be anybody, you know, and that's the thing. There's no egos, there's no prides. It's just we got a common goal for the team to move forward and for the team to win, and for fighters like Enrique and Brian to shine. That's it.
I love it. That's awesome.
And this wouldn't be possible without Fighters Inc., so Fighters
Shout
Inc.
out.
Thank you. Big thank you to Fighters Inc. It's a big part. Fighters Inc. top 10 and the Fighter brand, big part of what we do.
Awesome. Very cool. Good shout out for them. And then talking about Brian, I also wanted to pass this off to Enrique, because that wound up being a very good fight last night. A lot of times we see teammates go into a fight against one another, and it can look like they're kind of light sparring in the dojo, right? Yeah. And at the end of the day, you and Brian went right down to the buzzer. You scored at the buzzer to wind up winning the fight. So just put us inside your mind as you're in the ring and you're against a teammate. You know, you certainly don't want to hurt each other or anything, but you're also both trying to win, right? Yes. So that's weird, right?
Yeah, it's weird. You know, I have many teammates, but, you know, you had, like, some special teammates. You know, like Brian. Brian is really good fighter, is really good person. I always, when he know me when I was young, and I always fight with him. When I was 15 years old, he was there fighting with me. I come one time to Miami, and I was trying to fight in 15, 16, I think, something like that. But I lose my category. When I lose my category, they told me, okay, you should fight in adults, because I was coming from Guatemala, you know. So he told me, okay. I was fighting in adults the first time with Brian. Of course, I lost because I was young. Right now, yesterday, you know, we are friends. You know, this is other thing. When you are friend, sometimes you don't fight like really strong, because you know each other. You know, I train with him always, so you know, a lot of times I fight with him. So it's really good to fight with my friends. You know, so I don't know. Just I hope Brian can be like more years in this sport, because he can be like 8 years more or 10 years more fighting, you know, because he is really good. I see many people from Venezuela, but he is one of my favorite person and one favorite fighter. Of course, Joskar is the best. Before he was really, really the best one. Right now he is still good one, but for me right now Brian is in the top, you know. Mm-hmm. And I respect everyone, you know. Mm-hmm. But yes, that's what I'm thinking about.
And I think that there's an entire, like, there's a couple of countries in Latin America that specifically have produced really high-level point fighting talent. We talk about Venezuela. Guatemala's produced a ton of talent, as you know, Enrique, right? So can you just speak briefly, like, and I assume it's from, because I remember going to Guatemala when I was a teenager and teaching seminars there and seeing, I saw Joskar for the first time when he was probably in more of what he would consider his prime, right? Mm-hmm. I probably saw you and your brother fighting when you were tiny, right? And so just speak a little bit to the ability of these countries and these schools, really, within these countries, to be able to produce that level of talent. And I'm just thankful now that you guys are so consistently, you know, able to compete here in the United States.
Yes, I already been in everywhere from there. In Guatemala, we have some really good guys. Of course, they don't come here because maybe they are in Waco, they are in other, you know, or just compete there, and they should come to compete in United States, you know. In Mexico, there are really good fighters.
Yeah.
There are many fighters. I already see him. There is like 20, like 30 really good fighters, you know. In Argentina, is really good fighters too. I already been there, is good. Chile, they are good fighters. I don't know why these people don't come to United States, you know. Mm-hmm. I don't know, maybe they don't believe that they can be in the finals or I don't know, because they can come, because they come always to Waco, Europe, but here no. So can be really good if these people come to United States, because they're good fighters.
Awesome. I think that's a great perspective and yes, kind of a public service announcement for any of those fighters down there to come up here and have some fights, because that's the biggest thing is, like, we had a 70 fighter open weight division and that was huge, right?
Yes.
But we can do better than that. And that's what's crazy about this game is that we had one of the biggest open weights that we've ever had, but there's still room for it to grow because there's that many fighters that are that good dispersed all over the world, and we just got to get them here, right?
Yeah, in Mexico, for example, 2 years ago, I was competing in my division. In lightweight was more than 100 people.
Wow.
Just in lightweight.
That's crazy.
So there is good, you know, but they should come here.
For sure.
Yeah.
And talking about lightweight, that's the perfect segue to one of the last topics I want to get to. We've talked a bunch about open weight, everything with Diamond G3, which has all been awesome. But at the end of the day, today's Saturday. There's still work to be done, right?
Yes.
You've got a lightweight division to go through and try to win yourself another overall grand championship. And so I want just perspectives from each of you about Enrique's path going to that lightweight overall, because I know that's the goal today, is to be in the Battle Zone Finals, winning that lightweight overall. Enrique, what's it going to take?
The first place, the grand champion and overall. I'm coming for that, you know?
Love it.
I told you from yesterday, I don't see who is there. I'm coming just for the first place. I don't care the money, I don't care who is there, I don't care which competition is, just I want the first place, you know? It's why I'm coming here. I was training a lot. I was training every day, like 2 or 3 times for the first place, you know, and I don't lose this time. I'm going to win. Yeah.
Love it. I'm ready to watch Enrique fight now. That's awesome. And then Coach Damien, from your perspective, what's it going to take for him to pull it off?
I believe in him. So that's all it is. Every time I stand behind him, I tell him I believe in him. And I mean, he uses everything, but I just tell him straight out, let's kick people in the face. That's it. Because when he kicks people in the face, it sounds like some of these guys' back fist. It's just like whack. And that's it. We don't see anything else but final goal.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank both of you so much for taking the time to come on the show today. Super appreciate it. I know you got to go and get focused on competing now and get warmed up and everything. Looking forward to seeing your fights, Enrique. Best of luck today. Best of luck to all the fighters from Diamond G3. And I'm sure that we'll be seeing plenty of more appearances on the Jax Rudolph podcast and other Sport Karate Zone outlets for you guys coming up in the future. So
yes,
thank
sir.
you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, and so with that, for everybody tuning in from home, I'm actually going to check my phone real quick because the Plowdens are right here. Okay, perfect. We've got we had a little bit of with no commercial breaks. We're just rolling through and getting everything going. And so our last segment for today, we have the one and only, well, I guess the two and only, right? But we've got the Plowdens coming into the booth. Morgan Plowden, Avery Plowden, two absolute legends of this point fighting game. We thought we were going to be joined by Richard Plowden, the dad, today as well. Unfortunately, he's not able to be with us, but we think that you guys can shout his praises enough to make up for it. So first and foremost, thank you both for taking the time to come on the show this morning. And if we could just start with a quick one-liner about who you are and anything you want the audience to know about you first.
You go first.
Thanks for having us, Jackson. My name is Richard Avery Plowden. Yeah. I don't know what to say. I love the sport. I love point fighting. Our dad got us into it, and I've been doing it for 25 years now.
Yeah, Jackson, thanks for having us. My name is Morgan Plowden. Also, like Avery, I love sport karate, love point fighting.
Awesome. And I think the first thing is just kind of get us caught up on where we're at this weekend in terms of, obviously, Avery, anytime you come to a tournament, going to be one of the favorites to take the open weight, the heavyweight overall, everything that you're involved in, you're going to be one of the favorites, right? And that's a testament to everything that you've achieved in the sport up until this point. And Morgan, of course, you're in a little bit of a different role now, not getting out there and duking it out, but sitting in the coach's chair and getting all excited over what Avery's doing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, Avery, we'll start with you. Kind of give us an update. Obviously, open weight was loaded yesterday. Your last fight wound up going into overtime. I want to hear your perspective on that. And then, of course, kind of switching things up for today and what adjustments you're going to make to go and try to take home a heavyweight overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Love competing. Love when I'm coming to our sport and seeing a division with 72 people in it. That's fantastic. I lost. Not much to say about it. I'm not the kind of dude for excuses or anything. Enrique Leotona's fantastic. I think he's the best kicker out right now. And as far as adjustments, it's just not to lose, man. I was telling some of my students, I don't like calling my own shots. Like, I appreciate when people say, like, oh, I'm a favorite and, like, oh, I'm going to win. But I hate hearing it. Like, I have an inner voice that is very confident and that I say that too, but I don't like saying it out loud because I don't like posturing. I don't like people saying it to me, really.
Sorry.
A lot of that. No, you're good, man. I'm weird. I have, like, superstitions and stuff, but people say it all the time. And it's interesting being that guy now because just yesterday I was 18 years old and people didn't know that Richard Plowden had a son. So it's fun being at this point in my career, and I'm enjoying it. But I'm just still that 17, 18-year-old kid that wants to win and be the best in the world. That's my only expectation. I've had that expectation for myself since I was 18. I've thought since I started fighting, I'm here, I'm going to win. So nothing's changed for me.
I love that. That's
yes,
awesome.
Sir.
And then, Morgan, one thing that I want the audience to understand, even though you're not fighting this weekend, I definitely want them to have an understanding of the impact that you had on the sport. One of the greatest female fighters of all time.
Thank you.
Forget female. One of the greatest fighters of all time, right?
Thank you.
So go ahead and give us a little bit of context to maybe some of your favorite memories from Battle of Atlanta or of competing. And then you can also give us a little bit of a perspective from your seat watching Avery yesterday and looking forward to watching him today.
Yeah, so I don't know how many times I've been to the Battle of Atlanta, but I can remember the first time. And it was a little smaller than what it a bit smaller than what it is now. I have to say, over the years, they've come a long way with the production and the way that they put on the actual event. So that's always nice to see. I'm bad at stats, and I know I should know, but I don't remember the number of times that I've won here. But I have won both open weight and overall. As far as competing goes, I had a great time. I always did like it here. I like how, you have inside and then there's a different energy out here. There's always a difference. So yeah, it was pretty awesome. And then coaching, I'm fortunate to have a few students here too who I chase around and coach. And then I also have Avery too. I know my dad's not here now, but he will be here later. So you won't see me in the coach's chair for Avery anymore this weekend. But I am blessed to be able to do that and that he trusts me to sit in that chair, especially as a woman. I know you pointed out a greatest woman fighter, but as a woman, you don't see that very often, especially having a top fighter and having a woman in the chair. So I'm always honored as his sister to be able to do so, but also as a woman too, that he trusts me to.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
And then Avery, looking forward to today, obviously. The heavyweight bracket, I know we've been talking about one of the storylines this weekend is there's some lightweights that are kind of missing from the pack, right? Still some fantastic lightweights here.
Yes, sir.
Enrique, Tyson, lightweights still have great talent. But heavyweights is pretty much as packed as it gets on the heavyweight side, right? And so for you, I mean, even in your division, looking ahead to matchups with a guy like Cameron Ali, and then in the grands, looking at all of the different possibilities there, what are you most excited about today? I know you're a competitor at heart, so I know you're on the edge of your seat looking to get out there, but just kind of give us a preview from your perspective.
No, I love competing, Jackson. I really do. It's been doing it. I mean, again, 25 years and at the highest level since I was 17. And it's the motivation's different, right? Being the fact that I am 30 years old, I'll be 31 in a couple months. I'm in the middle of my career. My career's going fantastic, and my priorities are very different. And it's I don't have that same motivation as I did when I was 20, 21 years old to get up and run and lift and everything, just for the sake of doing it. But when I have the chance to fight somebody like a Cam, right, to fight somebody like a Darren, to fight the middleweights, the heavyweights, the lightweights, these guys that are great, that push me, I relish in it. Like, I really do. The fact that I'm still able to do this at the highest level and be the best in the world, in my opinion, that gets me out of bed every day. Like, and I'm thankful for those guys. Like, if it was easy for me to just come out here and to just fight people and it was easy, I would not like it. The opportunity to step in that ring and to have chess matches, some hard-hitting chess matches with some other great fighters and some young men that I know are bringing it. I love that, man. Like, I really do. It's a kind of rush I'm not able to get anywhere else in my life, and I'm very grateful for Sport Karate for still providing me with that for as long as it's going to provide me with it, and for the time that I'm able to do it, I'm going to do it, and it makes me excited, man. It gives me. I'm notorious for admitting that I get nervous before I fight, whether it's local tournaments, whether it's NASCAR events, whether it's world championships. I get butterflies, but as I get older, I like to look at that as more excitement than nerves, and I'm very excited to go and get busy today.
That's awesome. And I'm excited to watch you fight as well. And Morgan, Avery talks about this kind of evolution that he's had from being that 18-year-old kid and in some respects still feeling some of those emotions. But he also talks about this kind of evolution to where his priorities in life are different now and that the motivation to train is different than it was.
Yeah.
What have you seen as Avery has gotten older? How has that change looked from your perspective as a sister, a training partner, a coach? What did that look like?
Yeah, it's interesting because, I am not competing this, it's new as of this year. So he's asked me, because it wasn't something that I never ever felt before, where, you have this drive for so long and it's so exciting and you love doing it. And he's asked me what it's felt like. From my perspective, I think to understand for him whether he feels the same way. But as far as training goes, Avery's an athlete. He says, it's different getting out the bed now and going on a run, but I don't see anybody work as hard as he does. And people comment on his physique and the way that he looks. He's a heavyweight, but you can tell he's in great shape. But he's an athlete. He works hard. So I'm still training. I still train because it's just something that, you love to do. And we have the Apple Watches, and I'm at work, and he'll send me a workout that he does. Or I'm at work, and on my lunch break, I'll send him a run that I did. And it's fun that way. But from the outside looking in, I don't notice that much of a difference as far as training goes. But so much of this game is mental. So I know that there's a lot of thinking that goes into it too, and you have to train that also.
I think that's a great perspective. And then one thing that I also wanted to talk about with Avery, because I always like for any young martial artist tuning in, is I want people to have something that they can learn anytime they tune in to the podcast. And by the way, for everybody watching, both of these individuals, fantastic role models, all kinds of success off the mat, in addition to on the mat, as well as carrying themselves the right way in both of those places. And so I want to heap a lot of praise on you guys for that, and a lot of praise on Mom and Dad for helping create that, right? And so anything they say, you guys need to listen to. But Avery, I'm just going to ask like a specific point fighting question so that maybe some of those young athletes can take a little knowledge nugget home. One thing, we made a Sport Karate Zone post about it recently in one of your fights in Chicago against Enrique.
Yes, sir.
And that guard and the defense that you had, and I put a little Tony Allen audio on it, talking about first team all defense.
I like that.
But that's one of the things that stands out about your game is you have fantastic defense as a point fighter.
Yes, sir.
And I think that's something young fighters struggle with. Everybody learns how to throw kicks. Everybody learns how to blitz. It's hard to learn defense.
It is.
If you had to give one or two tips, what is it? A mindset? Is it a drill to work on? Like what would you give that young athlete that needs better defense?
Yeah, I'll give you a few answers. It's definitely a mindset. I don't think anybody can kick at me. Like I genuinely, and again, that's not. It's a thin line between confidence and arrogance. I don't want to ever be arrogant, like ever. I think that is one of the antithesis to being a martial artist is not having humility. But at the end of the day, it's called sport karate. So it is a sport, and you have to have a bit of a mindset, and I genuinely don't think that people should kick at me. I think that is a mistake. And the reason is because I'm not afraid. I am not afraid of kicks. That comes from a dude. I mention him all the time in my seminars, Jamon Wiggins. He's one of my father's black belts. And what happened was when I was a kid, when I turned 13, 14, I started getting bigger, right? Like I wasn't, lifting and stuff, so I wasn't as broad as I am now, but I was taller. So my big brother started putting it on me. And Jamon was one of those guys, and Jamon can kick like how I can move my hand. He'll be able to move his leg. And I wasn't able to move, didn't have the best footwork, I can't dance. So my father told me, just put your hands up. And it was that simple. And it just became a matter. I used to fight with my hands all the way up, my guard right in front of me. And it just kind of just evolved into what it is now. Where it's like I can stay relaxed, but I can always go into that mode of having that, what we call that tight defense. And there's a drill on my Instagram page where like you stand on the wall and somebody throws stuff at you and you just sit there and you just block. But the end of the day is just not being afraid. A lot of people, when they see blitzes coming at them, they see kicks coming at them, our initial thought is like, oh snap, like fear. But if you're not afraid, if you're thinking like, hey, like this thing can't touch me, then you can just play with it and have fun out there, man. It really is a mindset. Like just do not be scared. We're in a fight. You're bowing to the judge, bowing to the other person. You know you're about to be in a fight. Let's fight. So just don't be scared and have the belief that nobody can touch you. That's the name of the game. Hit and don't get hit.
Awesome. An absolutely brilliant perspective. I love that. Something great. Take-home message for anybody tuning in. And as we round out the show, just want to say thank you both so much for taking the time to come on the show this morning. We'll just have to do a repeat episode of the Jax Rudolph podcast and get Pops on there and do maybe we'll just do a whole family show. Get Mom on there, and call up Travis. Get everybody on there.
I think that'd be fun.
But anyway, thank you guys so much. Sir. Avery, best of luck today. Look forward to seeing your fights and look forward to talking to you guys off air.
Thank you,
sir.
Cool. So, for everybody tuning in here at home, this has been another episode of the Jackson Rudolph podcast. Unfortunately, our final live episode of the podcast right here on the Battle of Atlanta YouTube channel this year. But make sure that you guys stay tuned to this YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button because later this afternoon, we've got a pre-show leading into the Battle Zone finals. We've got world-class athletes in forms, weapons, and fighting that are going to be gracing the stage tonight. You heard from many of them this morning. And if you're just now tuning in at the end of the show, as soon as we're off live, make sure you rewind it, go back and watch this whole thing because we've got some amazing storylines. Haley Glass, Gabrielle Rudolph, Caio Da Silva, Mason Stowell, and then those amazing fighters you just saw, Enrique Latona, Avery Plowden. We've got a ton of great storylines going into the finals. You don't want to miss this. I'm Jackson Rudolph on behalf of Sport Karate Zone, Century Martial Arts, and the Battle of Atlanta. We'll see you next time.